Johanna. Hello and welcome to another process video on my channel. Today I'm doing a scrapbooking process. This is a 12 by 12 layout that I'm doing for my daughter's baby album. This is actually going to be like the title page to the whole album. So I have a photo and I also have her little it's like, I don't know what they're called, but they're like a little birth announcement card with the details that they fill out at the hospital. So I have absolutely no idea at this point what I'm going to do, but those are the two pieces that I'm going to be scrapping. And so since I don't know what I want to do, I'm just going through my stash and I'm just pulling out a bunch of things and trying to see if anything kind of jumps out at me. So I pulled out a couple of scrapbook papers, I've pulled out some linens printables, and I've also pulled out some book pages that I thought could work. And I'm just playing around and trying to work out what pieces I'm actually going to use. And I do have one idea that I'm running with, and that's that I want to create a pocket for the little announcement card. And I want to actually put this pocket on the outside of the page protector so that you don't have to pull the whole layout out to get to that card. So my idea was that I thought I could make a card that I could stitch to the outside of the page protector and then have the rest of the layout sit behind it kind of seamlessly. And so yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. And I've got that bluey yellowy greeny paper on the right, and that's what I want to make my pocket with. I really like the print, and I'm just trying to work out which page I'm going to use for the background, and I did end up going with that pink and white sort of ledger paper for the background. And then to create the pocket, I've just cut it down with two pieces, and I'm just going to actually stitch that together on my sewing machine as well to create the pocket because I like the look of the stitching. And I'm just still pulling things from my stash and moving them around and trying to work out how I'm gonna keep developing ideas further from that, because I wasn't really sure what this layout was going to look like at all when I began. I have a piece of, I think it was from a vintage baby card, which the photo is sitting on right now, and that's what I'm going to use to frame the photo. I like the little border around it, and I like the soft blue color. I am using a lot of different colors in this layout, but that doesn't really bother me. I tend to be very eclectic in my style, no matter how hard I try to just keep to a single color palette that's very like strict. I always just end up bringing in whatever I feel like. The page does end up to be quite busy as well, and scrapbooking, especially 12 by 12 scrapbooking, is quite foreign to me. 12 by 12 layouts, it's not something that I've done very much of, and so I'm still in these early layouts. I'm still figuring out my style, and I'm still learning. Yeah, I'm still just learning my personal preferences with creating a 12 by 12 layout. I know everybody has different styles, and it's just a matter of working out how to put my style into this type of project. And so yeah, so I decided to trim that pocket down a little bit smaller, and then I've just got a couple of pieces that I'm pretty sure I'm going to include on the page, but I'm not exactly sure how at this point. So I'm pretty sure once I figure out the basic layout, I just start sewing that pocket together. But I decided to put that vintage baby card underneath the pocket so that it kind of hangs out to the left, have the photo sitting on top of that, and then I've got one of my vintage linen printables here that I'm just cutting out a bit neater, and that's where the title is going to sit. And the title is just going to be hello for this page, because this is the first, I'm pretty sure this is the first photo I ever took of our daughter, and it was just after she was born, so that's why I decided to use that photo for this page. So I'm just creating some layers behind that pocket. So I've chosen a little bit of this storybook paper, just so that you can see it peeking out behind that. And then I do put another layer behind that again to make it stand out better, and I ended up using this complementing yellow gingham print. It complements that paper that I chose for the pocket because it's the back side of it, and it helps just lift that pocket up off the page. So just piecing those layers together and having a look at how everything is going to look together. I've got another couple of pieces there to the left. I had pulled out this transparency. I thought about maybe framing the photo of my daughter with that, but I don't end up using that piece. And I've also got another piece there on top of the card that I was thinking about using, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't commit to anything until I've stitched the pocket, which you see me doing now. So I stitched the pocket, and then I pulled out the page protector, and I did my best to stitch it to the page protector. I wasn't exactly sure how this was going to work either. It worked out fine. I just used some double-sided tape to keep it in place because the page protector is so slippery, I guess. So I ended up, you have to make sure that you open your page protector up before you sew it, obviously. And then I just stitched along the top of the pocket. I wanted to stitch the whole way around the pocket, but it was too difficult with my sewing machine to move that page protector under the needle. So I just left it along the top, stitched along the top, and that is quite secure. So that's fine. And then I'm just placing that 12 by 12 paper into the pocket to see where things are going to sit. I'm just building the page up around where I stuck that pocket down on the page protector. And so I just take a pencil to mark off where I want to place those layers. And so I just did two really small little dots so that I could see where to place those layers behind the pocket. Obviously, because I'm working with the pocket on the page protector, it makes it a little bit trickier to place things, but that's how I worked around that. And I just roughed up the edges of the scrapbook papers that I was using for layering, just with my scissors, to make it a little bit distressed and look a little bit more textured and lifted off the page. And I'm just using double-sided tape for those papers as well. So next, I'm just attaching my photo to that little vintage card, and then I'm going to place that card in behind those layers. So just trimming it down so that I can use the scrap of it for something else, and then I just tucked it under the layers, and then I'm just seeing how it's going to look with that pocket, and everything's lining up pretty well, so then I commit to that and stick that down as well. And when I'm placing the double-sided tape, I'm not putting it right on the edges because I may want to add embellishments that I may want to tuck under those layers, so I'm just making sure I leave enough space for me to lift them up again so that I can embellish it if I need to. And then I committed as well to that little title card, which is just a linens printable from my Etsy shop, and I just placed it slightly off to the left. I feel like it makes it easier for your eye to look at the page than it being really centered. Then I'm just going through my alphabet stickers and my thickers, and I'm just seeing what I might want to use. I ended up using these ones just because they were yellow, and I felt like it pulled in that gingham paper that you can see peeking behind the storybook paper. I'm not a huge fan of the font of these stickers, but I felt like the colour worked the best with the other out of the other options that I had, so I went with those. And I'm just placing them a little bit imperfectly. I don't think they need to be perfectly straight, especially for this layout. It's a little bit messy, and yeah, it's not a very neat and perfect layout at all, which I think you're gonna see is definitely not my style. I'm just kind of, I guess, especially now being so busy, it's to the point where it's getting it done is more important than getting it done perfectly. So you'll see later I do some more stitching and it's completely imperfect, and I could have just I could have restitched my machine and fixed up my settings on my machine and fixed up those stitches, but I just thought, like, whatever. I don't have much time. The stitching's there, it still gives you that texture, and it doesn't need to be perfect for me personally. It's more important for me just to get the page done, and it's not going to make a massive difference to me anyway. So these embellishments that I'm playing with now are from a printable pack. They're the Maggie Holmes flowers and little elements that I've printed out, and I'm using a bunch of those flowers to pull all of those pieces together and kind of frame them. So I've got a couple around the title, and then it goes up and around the pocket. And then I was thinking about using that little card with the baby clothes image on it, but I thought that was way too busy, so I just put it aside for now. And then I'm going to go ahead and start embellishing the page. So I know that I want to use the flowers, so I'm just laying those out again. And then I've got a couple of other pieces that I pulled out. I've got a couple of ephemera pieces and some words, and this little like carousel horse, which I think is really cute. She's got a little soft toy carousel pillow thing in her room, so I thought that was fitting, and I decided to include that as well. I've also got some of these plates, those circular pieces that I'm using. I fussy cut these out of a Maggie Holmes sheet. I think the sheet's called Flea Market, but I'm not entirely sure. I fussy cut the whole sheet so that I could use each individual plate as an embellishment, and I've just pulled out a couple of those that I liked, and I'm going to use them as like little half circles peeking out behind things. So I just give myself a rough idea of where things are going to go, and some of these things end up moving again when I actually stick them down, but I've given myself enough of an idea so that I can start attaching them. And I end up actually using my glue stick to attach the flowers, I think, and the plates and stuff, just because they're such odd shapes. I just felt like that was the easiest adhesive to use, and sometimes a glue stick seems to be stronger than like double-sided tape and stuff anyway. So I cut down some of those plates so they wouldn't peek out too much, and then I'm just slipping them in behind some of those pieces that I've stuck down, so the photo and the frame around the photo, and those layers there where the pocket's going to sit. And in the end, I'm not entirely thrilled with this layout. I'm not in love with it, but like I said, I'm happy that it's done, and I don't hate it. So, I mean, when I'm watching the process back, there's things I'm seeing me do that I think, oh, you should have left it at that point, or you should have put it back over that way. When you're looking at it in this way, you can kind of see where you might like to change things in the future, and I guess that's a good way to learn anyway, because like I said, this is a new process to me, so it's a good way to reflect on it and to get better. So still fiddling around with those flowers and those plates, and eventually I find a place for everything and just stick it down. It is quite a busy layout, and Like I said, that's just tends to be my style, but I'm trying to make it busy, but also I want it to be easy for your eye to look at. I don't want it to be really confusing to look at, if that makes sense. So it's got kind of this diagonal placement on the page, which I hope makes it easy for your eye to kind of look across it and not get confused with everything that's going on. So gluing on those last few pieces, I decided to add another plate around this side of the layout. I don't know if it actually needed that in the end, but I added it. And then just sticking on the last couple of things. This photo I just took on my iPhone as well, and it was quite a dark photo because she was born in the middle of the night, and so it wasn't a terrific photo, but it's a special photo because it's when she first entered the world. So that's why I decided to use that photo regardless of the quality of it, and she looks really sweet in it anyway. Now, I hate my handwriting, but I decided to write along the top her name and along the bottom her birth date. And I'm not fond of my writing at all, and I'm not totally in love with how this turned out. I was also really shaky that day. I don't know why, but my hand was shaky, so I'm not too fond of it, but I just wanted to add a little bit of something extra, a little bit more details to the page, so I just did that with my pen. And think about using those baby clothing pieces again, but decided not to, and then just tuck it away in the pocket to see how it all came together. And here is a look at the final page. I did end up adding some tiny word stickers after I filmed this, but there's some still shots at the end where you can see those extra little details. They don't change the layout too much, but there you can see my pocket is very usable. You don't have to pull the layout out of the page protector to pull the piece out of the pocket, so I quite like how that turned out. And yeah, so that is the finished page. I hope you enjoyed this process, and I hope you'll join me to see how the rest of this baby album comes together. Thanks for watching. Bye.